So let's talk about effortless writing on the go. Scrivener's cloud syncing secrets revealed. Okay. And so like I said, I'm excited to talk about this, but sometimes this can be a tricky one. Some people run into a lot of issues with it, and getting things set up can be a little challenging. And so I want to hopefully demystify some of that today, make it as simple as possible, and also share with you some critical keys or guidelines or secrets, whatever you want to call them, to make sure that you can keep this sync process simple and working, right? You don't, the worst thing to find out is like you're having problems, things aren't working. I want to give you some guidelines on how to prevent a lot of those problems. Now, for those of you who don't know who I am Oliver Evanson, the outreach specialist for Literature and Latte. I am a writer, editor, and Scrivener mentor, largely thanks to this amazing software. And for the better part of 15 years, I have used Scrivener to improve my own writing and editing skills. And I'm eager to teach you these skills here today. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm going to give you a couple things real quick. I love connecting with you guys, so if you want to connect with me, send me an email, join my newsletter. Happy to have you and take part of that. And of course, all new subscribers and existing ones, if you haven't got it for some reason, get a copy of my free Scrivener Starter Novel template. So if you'd like a copy of that, feel free to go to ogevanson.com/newsletter, sign up, and we'll get you a copy of that. Okay, let's dive right in. So first off, our schedule. We have our introduction, okay, which we're kind of going through right now. We have our training. Okay, and a part of this training, a lot of this training is going to be me kind of giving you some clear, common sense like guidelines and things you can follow, and a little bit of a demonstration. And then we'll talk about some free resources we have available at the end, our upcoming events for next webinar week, okay, and a short Q&A there at the end. Okay, and hopefully this shouldn't take us much longer than, I'd say, probably an hour and 15 minutes. That's the goal. Okay, so today I promise to teach you two things, okay? First off is how to use my sync secrets to prevent 99% of Scrivener sync conflicts and sync issues, okay? You follow these guidelines, most of the time you're not gonna run into any issues. It's rare I've run into an issue so long as I keep these things in line. So whenever I don't keep these ideas in mind, that's when things start to go wrong. So we'll go over those today. And two, how to set up and move projects into Dropbox on your Mac to effortlessly write on the go. There we go, if I could say that word. Now, we are going to focus on setting up Dropbox on Mac today and how to get things up there. If we have a little bit of time, if it looks like we're going to be under time, then I'll see if I can also do it on iOS and iPadOS as well. Actually, probably just iOS because I don't have my iPad handy. But we'll definitely do it on iOS if we have time there at the end, because I want to make sure we can look at that too. But we'll see. We'll see. It really depends on how time goes. But today you should leave confident feeling to set up cloud syncing on your Mac and be able to prevent and resolve most sync issues. That's the goal today, okay? So we'll see how we do here as we go along. So first off, let's talk about the keys to the cloud. Scrivener's cloud syncing secrets revealed, okay? Now, I kind of think of these as common sense guidelines, but they're not necessarily common sense, right? A lot of us don't know. But before I get into that, I wanted to ask everyone here, has anyone ever lost work, like work due to a sync conflict or to a sync issue? I'm just curious. Let me see if I can pull up the chat here. There it is, yeah. Has anyone lost stuff due to a sync issue? Okay, Gabor says yes. Karen says yes. Marilyn, oh, yep, okay. So quiet. Yeah, it looks like Justin says no. Oh, that's good. Daniel, no. Believe it or not, I'm glad to see a lot of no's. I can definitely see a lot of yeses. Believe it or not, I have also lost work due to a sync issue or sync conflict. And that's why this kind of became backing up in particular and getting my sync issues figured out. Yeah, it was kind of like, man, I really got to figure this out so this doesn't happen to me again. Thankfully, in most cases, I keep fairly good backups. So I didn't lose a ton of work, but I did lose a chapter or two just because of how I was handling things. I was not handling things well. I was not using proper, I wasn't using a good cloud sync solution. So I wasn't using an approved one, I guess you could say, the recommended one. And yeah, Google Drive just kind of ate up my project and it was gone. Not fun. So I don't want that to happen to you guys. I don't want your computer to be smoldering either, like we were saying here. No, none of that, please. We want to make sure that we know the right way to do this. Now, I also want to add into that, cloud syncing is great also for backing up too. I keep a backup in the cloud. I keep a backup locally on my computer. And often I also keep, because I'm really paranoid, I keep a backup located on an external drive. So I have like 3 places that I keep my work just in case anything goes wrong. Because as we know, no cloud sync method is 100% safe. That said, though, if you follow these guidelines, it's going to be rare you're going to run into an issue, okay? So let's dive right in here. First off, here is my first rule or secret, okay? Never open the same project on more than 1 device at a time. Okay, and this is critical, and this would be kind of disappointing, I guess, for Laurel, for people who were like, oh, I want to collaborate with my writer. But this is something that, especially if you are collaborating with someone, you can't both be on that project at the same time. And the same is true for single users. If I open it up on my MacBook, and then I come to my Mac Studio here, and I have both projects open, and I make changes on both simultaneously, I'm going to corrupt that project. Guaranteed, it's not going to work anymore. It's going to have some problems. You'll either lose data or just fully make the thing fully, completely, totally unusable. So that's the first guideline there. Never open the same project on more than 1 device at a time. And if you follow this rule, 90% of your sync issues are going to go away, guaranteed. Now, if you do happen to make this mistake, there is ways around it. Okay, there are checks and balances and things that we can do to kind of like, to overcome this problem. It's not an instantaneous, oh, my project is corrupted. Scrivener does have a method of handling those things, but if you consistently keep doing that, you're going to run into more sync conflicts, more errors until the whole thing just doesn't work anymore, okay? So remember this, maybe write it down, keep it there, just burn it into your memory, okay? Do it, just do it, make sure you do it that way. Okay, number 2, okay, always allow Dropbox to finish uploading before shutting down your computer or putting it to sleep. Now, thankfully, in most cases, if you have a good internet connection, you don't have to think about this too much. But if it's worth at least glancing at. If you go up to the top of your screen, the top menu in the Apple top menu, typically you can see Dropbox there. You can click that. And I do this actually fairly regularly now. I've made it a habit to check Dropbox before I shut down and before I go to sleep. I close out my project, I check Dropbox, and then I jump off. Because if I don't, there have been occasions where I have, let's say, my MacBook right here, right? And I pull it out. I jump off this thing, I pull it out, and I immediately just start working on my MacBook, okay? Now, the danger of that is it probably hasn't quite finished uploading on Dropbox on my computer, and neither has it finished downloading on my new computer, on my MacBook as well. So you kind of have to give Dropbox a little bit of leeway there, a little bit of time to sync things through. Now, it's pretty quick. It's pretty fast. It usually does go pretty fast. But just to make sure that it's been done, just double check it. Double check it on that machine. And I guess you can probably guess what my next guideline is going to be. Always verify your Dropbox folder is fully synced before opening your project. So, 1, we got to make sure that the project is in fact fully synced on the computer we just worked on, in this case, my Mac Studio, right? And if I'm moving over to my MacBook now, I'll pull that out and say, okay, here's my MacBook. Check and make sure Dropbox has fully synced on that device. Because it has happened to me actually a couple times where I didn't do that verification, and I opened it up on my computer. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. It's like out of sync. And so I'll have to close it out and let Dropbox sync. And then that often will create a binder conflict. And then I'll open it up. It's like, oh, which version of the binder do you want to open up? And you get confused, and the next thing you know, you're in a world of hurt because you just didn't wait a little bit. So exercising a little patience. I know it's frustrating. We can do it. Just do that. Give it a minute or two. Typically, if your internet connection is good, that'll be done quick and easy. Okay. And let's see here. Number 4. Actually, I've lost. Yeah, I think it's number 4. Number 4, frequently back up your projects in 2 places, locally and in the cloud, okay? Now, by default, Scrivener will automatically create a backup copy of your project when it's closed. You want to make sure that when you do that automatic backup, I recommend you choose a backup location somewhere on your local hard drive, so you can also set up your local backups to sync with cloud sync services like Dropbox. So, for example, I keep my my backups in Dropbox, but they're also saved locally on my computer, right? And so those will then upload directly to Dropbox. It's pretty handy. Now, if you want to use Dropbox to back up your projects, you'll need to designate a different backup folder for each computer, and I'll show you what that looks like, how I've done that. That's what I recommend you do rather than having one communal backup folder. It also makes it easier to differentiate where the backup was made for each computer you use it for. Now, if you only have one computer, it's not that big a deal. But if you're like me, kind of a power hungry user where I've got like 4 or 5 different devices I use, I know it's terrible, but I do. That's how I work sometimes. I do have a backup folder for each of those devices. Now, for some users, it may just be simpler not to use Dropbox for backups, as you may end up overwriting the backup from a different computer if you set that up incorrectly. So it's going to be depending on what you feel comfortable with. I'll let you decide. I'll show you how it's done, and you can make that decision for yourself. Okay, so Ben is asking, what if you have Scrivener on Windows? I have Scrivener on both. Okay, so if you have Scrivener on Windows, the beauty of Scrivener on Windows and Scrivener on Mac is that you can use the same Dropbox, right? And I can actually open up the projects that were available in Dropbox on my Mac, on my PC. In fact, I do it all the time. That's actually one of the benefits of keeping your projects in the cloud, is it doesn't matter which platform I'm using. I can actually open it on my Mac. I can open it on my PC. And if I've stored it correctly in Dropbox, I can also open it on my iPhone or iPad as well. I have it available on all 4 of my devices. Okay, so anyone there I can do it with. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Ben. But if it doesn't, let me know, and I'll try to clarify that. Let's see here. And Bill says OneDrive has an option to keep on this device. Yep, I believe Dropbox does as well. Okay, let's see. Okay, so there we go. There's our guidelines. I probably should have had a review slide here where we reviewed each one at a time. But we're gonna go ahead and jump into our Link Scrivener to the cloud and how we'll go about doing that. Okay, so first off, it's pretty simple. We're going to download and install Dropbox onto your Mac or PC, as the case may be. You're going to sign into your Dropbox account, and then you're going to transfer your projects to your Dropbox folder. Now, I recommend you give it a very specific location so it's easy to find and easy to navigate to. And in fact, there is an ideal directory or folder directory you can put things in, so that's easy for you to sync with Dropbox and iOS. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that right now. I'm actually going to drop out of this real quick, and we're going to share our, what is it, desktop? Yeah, desktop 1. Okay, there we go. And move things over, and we're going to get started here. So first off, let's give me a second, guys. X. Okay, well, sometimes Apple's devices are finicky and don't work, but in this case, we'll probably use the phone today to at least do the other one. But let me just show you what I had planned to some degree. Okay, I really wanted to show you in real time what it's like setting it up, but since it's not going to work, we're going to have to kind of just go like this. So we're going to go to Dropbox, and we're going to go to dropbox.com/install. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Okay, that'll take you to this page right here. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and click install here. We're going to go ahead and go to allow. Okay, and that'll download that there for us. Now, I already have Dropbox installed in here, so when I double click this right, it's going to open up the installer. Come on. There it is. Okay, and then we double click that to install that, and it would take you through the whole installation process. You just follow the prompts, and you go through that whole thing, right? Now, once Dropbox is installed, you're going to have to sign in. Now, depending on your account or whatever, it's usually pretty easy to do. It's just your username, your password. You log into that, and you're ready to roll here. Okay. In my case, we're already signed in, right? We're ready to go, and we can see that's already set to go. I'm really bummed about this. I really wanted to show you how it all would look and sign in and everything, but we'll just have to take it like this and do it. Next time, I'll have to not rely on screen mirroring. Okay, so there we go. So we got Dropbox open there. Once it installs, you'll have a nice Dropbox folder. I believe, I have mine set up in favorites here, but I think they changed something recently where it no longer shows there. It should just show down here at locations. I'm kind of using an older version here. But regardless of where it's at, whether it's in locations here or in favorites, you're going to have a Dropbox folder that'll pop up here. Now, by default, this is where I keep my Scrivener projects. Okay, so if you open up Dropbox, you'll have just probably have a few folders here. You'll open up Dropbox and you'll have apps. And your apps, you'll have Scrivener, and this is where I keep all my Scrivener projects. And the reason why is this is the default location if I were to connect my iOS device or my iPad to Scrivener to install all of these, not install, to download all of these projects onto that device, all onto my iPhone here, right? So that's where I would keep it. And so if you don't have those there, right, what you would do is you'd open it up, create a Scrivener folder there. You can actually create those folders. You can create the apps folder, you can create the Scrivener folder, and then you can actually just drag and drop any of your projects from your computer into this folder. So in this case, I do have a documents folder here with Scrivener projects. I could literally just take these Scrivener projects, right, copy them all, drag and drop them in like this, and paste them in there like that, and then let those just get installed or get uploaded to Dropbox. And you see, once they're uploaded, you get this nice little check mark and says, okay, those have all been uploaded and they're ready to go. Okay. Let's see here, 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. And it's as simple as that. It's just a matter of downloading Dropbox, finding your projects on your computer, moving them into that Dropbox folder, and you're ready to go. Ready to do that. That's all it takes. You just give Dropbox some time here to upload everything. Now, the first time you do this, it's going to take probably quite a bit of time. It's a lot of information if you have a ton of projects. If you have just 1 or 2, it shouldn't take too long at all. But if you're anything like me where you have 30 different projects and some of them are quite massive, it can take quite a bit of time. Just depends. Let's see here. And you can always come up here. This is where I check to see if my files are updated or not. I can even pause the sync. Anytime that's another good tip I have for you. If your sync ever looks like it's stalled out, it's not working, that does happen sometimes with Dropbox. What I do is I just come up here and I just pause it. Okay, and it says syncing pause till 11:56 a.m. But I don't keep it paused. Actually, what I do is I'll click it again and I'll just click resume. And 9 times out of 10, any sync issue that it ran into, it can just keep going from there. So that's kind of a quick little tip for you. You can just pause it, resume it, and it'll usually start working again. Okay, there we go. But wrong button. Okay, looking good. So that's the simple setup. Okay, of getting it set up. I think we're gonna have some time here. Let's go ahead and see if we can set it up on the phone real quick. I'm gonna share mirror my screen again. Maybe mirror. Oops, there we go. So this is an older iPhone like SE or something. So if you have an iPhone, what do you call it? A newer model, it should still, it's essentially the same processes, might look just a little bit different. Okay, so we have here, Scrivener's opened up and ready to go. I'm gonna actually tap the top and change that to our light mode, okay? And you can see here right now, there is nothing going. I have no projects on here. I haven't downloaded anything yet. And so if I wanted to bring my projects onto my iOS device, how would I do that? I would tap this little sync icon right up here in the top left corner. So I'm gonna press and hold that like that. Oops. Tap. Okay, and then there's the option to link Dropbox. And as a reminder, like I said earlier, if you're using any other cloud sync service other than Dropbox here, you can't link it. Dropbox only works for iOS devices. So if you want to have your projects on your iPhone or on your iPad, you're going to have to use Dropbox. Okay, and there is a reason behind that. I will explain all that in just a little bit here. Let's go ahead and get that pulled up here. I'm going to go ahead and I think we're going to continue with Google. The Finder. Okay, I was like, what? I'm confused. Okay, we'll tap that. We're going to link Dropbox, right? And you can continue with Google or something like that. In this case, I have it already set up for email here. Hopefully this will go. There we go. Yep. So we'll just log in. If you can continue with Google, whatever account you want to use. I'll get allowed to give it access. And then this is where we set up our Dropbox folder. Now you'll notice you can choose a different Dropbox folder to have that directory in. Like you can choose any folder you want, but I highly recommend you just keep it as the default, the apps/Scrivener. That way it's easy to find. It also helps us support specialists. If you're running into a sync issue and you've chosen a different folder, that can make it a little more challenging to figure out what's going on. Typically just having it in that apps/Scrivener folder works great. And we'll click done. Since I already have all my projects in there, I'll click done and it's gonna sync that. Now this will take a while because it's quite a big, it's a lot of projects, okay? They're large projects, it'll take quite a while. So that'll download for a little bit. I think what we'll do in the meantime I'm hoping it'll show like the count, but it will take a little bit of time. Maybe by the time we're done, it might be done here. So we're going to let that go. I'm going to stop mirroring, and we'll see if we can get that. If that, I'll keep an eye on that, and I'll share it as it starts uploading that, so you can see kind of what that looks like. But that's as simple as it is. You just quickly link that. Your project will automatically download, and depending on how big those projects are and how many you have, it'll just determine that time. It can take anywhere from like 5 minutes to an hour or so, just depending on just how massive and your projects are, and also how fast your internet connection is, right? So bear that in mind. Okay, let's jump back into the presentation here. I'm going to share this guy here. And let's talk about some frequently asked questions I get about cloud syncing. So these are common questions, quickly answered. First off, what cloud sync service does Literature Latte recommend? And I think that's already kind of a dead giveaway based on what I just did. Dropbox. Dropbox is the cloud sync service we recommend for Scrivener projects, primarily for both editing and for backing up. But the reason behind this is because Dropbox cloud sync methodologies works really, really well with Scrivener projects. It's quite stable. There's rarely any sync issues going back and forth. It just works really well, and a lot of problems that you're going to experience with cloud syncing is probably going to not be related to Scrivener itself, but to the cloud sync service you are using and the methodology around that. So that's something to bear in mind. So I know we had some people who weren't using Dropbox, and if that's you, you're probably going to be like, oh, I don't want to switch over to Dropbox. I have all this free stuff through Google Drive and through OneDrive and etc. I get it. I have OneDrive. I have Google Drive. They offer several gigabytes worth of free, or not free. I think Google does, but versus free and paid. I'm already paying for OneDrive. I want to use it. I already get a ton of free stuff from Google. I want to use it. It's disappointing to hear, but trust me, you will not regret using Dropbox for this specific purpose. It just works so much better, and you're going to run into you're going to run into less problems. You really are. You're going to run into a lot less problems. Now, are there cloud sync services I shouldn't use with Scrivener? And the answer is a resounding yes. There are some that just, well, technically you can use them, and many of you I see are. Unfortunately, many of these are more popular services. They just don't use good sync methodologies that play nice with Scrivener projects. That doesn't mean they don't handle other files just fine. I'm sure they do. But with Scrivener projects in particular, Google Drive doesn't do well. iCloud even doesn't do well. OneDrive, Box. If I had to choose an alternative, I probably would use iCloud. It works a little bit better than some of the others. But really, the sync methodologies just don't play nice with Scrivener projects. In fact, if you recall me mentioning earlier how I lost some data, it was through Google Drive. Google Drive was the killer of my project. It just seemed like every time I opened it, something was missing. And kind of find out it was like deleting things while syncing inside of my project, and that was really frustrating and annoying because while I had been backing up, things had gotten overwritten and lost, and I didn't realize until it was too late, and that whole project had been corrupted. Not fun. So if you're using Google Drive, I highly recommend you don't. Okay, it's not worth it. Even if you've had relative success with it, you can run into some serious problems with that. Same with all these. Now, with that said, can I use these services to back up my Scrivener projects? Absolutely. You can use all the aforementioned services for backup purposes. I would remind you, of course, that no cloud sync solution is 100% safe, but backing up these files is fine so long as, here's the caveat, so long as they are compressed or zipped, okay? Basically means the same thing, right? So long as they're zipped files that are backed up to the cloud. And the reason behind this is because, like I said, how these cloud sync services use or sync files varies between them. Okay, their methodologies and how they do it. Okay, and for some reason, when you have a zip file and it's compressed into one like small file, right? It doesn't have any problems. They all kind of do those relatively the same, right? Uploading and downloading those files. But when you have an unzipped file, it behaves differently. It looks like it's a bunch of different files, and things get misplaced and put in the wrong place or deleted altogether because it thinks, oh, you don't need that file anymore. That's old, and it sees duplicates and things like that. So, just fair warning, you know, you can use these for backup, but I wouldn't use them for live editing where I'm going from computer to actually edit them. So that may be a good use for those of you who are using those things. You still want to keep a backup, keep them in those cloud services. That's a great idea. And for me, that has worked really well because it also, I can still take advantage of those cloud services, and some of my backups are still pretty massive, even after being condensed and compressed into something smaller. And so it's nice to be able to use that Dropbox for primarily my live stuff, the stuff I'm actually working on it every day, and those other services simply for maintaining a backup structure, just having those available to me when I need them. Okay. Another question I often get is, what does sync with mobile devices do? And this is a confusing one. Even when I first started using, like, well, do I have to click this button every time I want to sync with my iPhone or iPad? Well, the answer to that is a resounding no. I do not have to click that button every time I want it to sync with my iPhone or iPad. What I have to do, or what this is really used for, is to verify that the project that I have open on my computer, whether it's my Mac, my PC, my MacBook, whatever desktop computer I'm using, is in sync with the cloud, or my iOS device in this case. And so what it'll do when you click that button is it'll actually detect if there's any changes. To look in the structure of your project from what's open and what's currently stored in Dropbox, and it'll say, okay, are those two the same? And if it's not the same, what will happen is it'll actually close out the project and reopen it, and if there are any conflicts, it'll let you know right then and there if there's any conflicts between the two versions of that document. Now, ideally, if you're following the rule I gave you earlier, right, where we never open a project at the same time, you should not run into this issue. But we all make mistakes, right? We leave it open on one computer on mistake, on accident, and we edit it on another project, or we even just open it on another project, on another device, and that's what this is for. Okay, so you can turn that on, you can click that button, and usually what will happen is it'll say no mobile. Was it? Let me see if I can actually find the exact phrase it says here. No device change. Where is it? Nope, I can't find it. But it'll say no mobile sync changes detected or something like that. And we'll look at that in a second. You can see what that looks like. Because typically, that's usually what you're going to see when you click that button. No changes. It didn't detect any changes. Now, sometimes Scrivener will actually detect these changes automatically. So if you jump on your computer, you've had it left it open, like, oh man, I left it open. Sometimes you click into it and Scrivener like, oh, I detected the change, and it'll just go ahead and close it out and do it for you automatically. But it's not 100%. Not every time does it do that. So if you ever feel concerned that your project is not in sync with the cloud, and especially if you've left it open, go ahead and click that button, activate this feature, and it'll let you know whether it detects any changes or not. Let's see. Okay, looking good. Okay, and another question I commonly get is, how do I resolve sync conflicts? Now, prevention is ideal, but it happens to all of us. But really, the best and only way is to actually compare the conflict with the original. And so, Scrivener does a really good job of that, putting all the conflicts to the bottom of your project, so you can quickly do a quick comparison between the two, and then just delete the one that is the older version, and then replace the newer version. I've had it most often. I've had it where I actually, the sync conflict that it has down below is the older version. I can just delete it. Occasionally, I think like once or twice, I've actually had to take the conflict and replace it with a file that's originally in the binder itself, and delete the one in the binder. But it doesn't happen too often. But if you keep to the cloud sync guidelines, then you're most likely going to prevent all those sync conflicts. Okay, so just remember those guidelines. If you don't remember them, that's okay. As a reminder, this is all recorded. You can watch it again. You can write them down. You can take them to heart. I highly recommend you do. It's going to make your experience using cloud syncing in Scrivener so much better. Let's see. Okay. Yep. Okay. Looks good. Okay. Before we get to that, let's look at our project here. See how it's looking, or our sync here, I should say. Going to Mac Studio. There we go. Okay, let's see how this is looking. So it's a lot. We're about more than halfway. It's actually going pretty quick. Thankfully, I have a fairly fast internet connection. This is something I do not recommend you do on a cellular network. One, because it's going to consume a lot of data. If you don't have unlimited data, that's going to be a problem, right? And it's also, what do you call it? It also, if you have an unstable connection, it's going to stall out and take a long time. So find a stable, if this is your first time doing it, find a stable connection, stick with it, do it at those times. Oops, I'm turned it on the side. Ooh, there we can see that a little bit better. Get it done. Another recommendation I would give you for those of you who are using mobile devices like an iPhone or iPad, I would recommend that before you even walk out the door, you do a quick sync. Okay, because in my experience, because my internet on my cell phone is sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's not. But I just found that before I leave the house, I quickly open up Scrivener, let it sync, and then be on my way. If I'm just using that device, it's already synced up. I can make any changes to it. I can't tell you the amount of times where I've forgotten to sync, and then my internet connection wasn't good, and it kind of stalls out your Scrivener on iPhone or iPad, because you really can't do anything until it finishes that sync. Because if you do, right, you could run into more sync conflicts. So another good rule of thumb is before you leave the house, before you leave a stable internet connection, make sure that you've quickly opened up the app and sync it. Okay, there we go. So that's still going. We're going to give it some time. Let me turn that off. Stop. Okay, looks good. Let me see. There was something earlier on I wanted to cover. Okay, yeah. So we talked about frequently backing up your projects to the cloud, right? We talked and how I set that up for multiple devices. I have different backup folders on each device, right? So first off, let me make sure I still have the right screen showing up. I think so. Scrivener. Nope, I don't. So let me. I don't think you guys could see any of that, could you? I had the wrong screen share. Okay, well let me share this screen here. Hopefully we can see this. Now share one. Okay, there we go. Okay, now you should be able to see this, right? So if I wanted to set up a backup folder first thing, we need to know how to do that. So we're gonna go to Scrivener, Settings. It's gonna open our backup folder right here. We're gonna go to Backups. And here, we're gonna see backup location right here is where we can modify that. You can see right here, I actually have a Dropbox, Backups, Mac Studio. And so that's how I've done it. I've actually set it up as Mac Studio Backups. If I back up my backup folder, I have 4 different folders for 4 different machines. I have a Mac Studio backup. I have a MacBook Air backup, which I don't have anymore, by the way. So that's kind of an older, archaic one that has old backups in it. I probably need to go through it and decide if I need it. Even my Mac Mini anymore, I don't have that anymore. That is gone too. They both died out on me. So sad. But I still have my Mac Studio. I have my Asus ProArt. That's my PC. I probably could just call it PC Backups. I specifically gave it the names of the device so I knew exactly which one I was using. And so the main thing is whichever device you're on, I just came in here and went to Dropbox. I created a backup folder. Okay, if I can find it, let's sort by name. There it is, backup folder right there. So you can just create a new folder, backup, open it up there, and then you can then create a new folder again. Okay, in this case, I actually need a MacBook Pro one. I could rename one of my old ones, but I'm just gonna go with MacBook Pro to kind of keep things separate. And we're gonna call this MacBook Pro Backups, okay? Because that's what I got to replace my other one. Now I don't want to change it on this machine because this is my Mac Studio, but when I open up my MacBook Pro, I can now use that as a folder to keep all my backups going forward. Let's see here, in the cloud. Right now, they're all being backed up, I'm sure, to the application support folder on my MacBook Pro, because that's the default typically. So we choose our Mac Studio there, and that's where all my Mac Studio backups are going to go. Now, if I open my backup folder, there they are. They're all there, and it's worth noting though, because I put them in a place I can easily find, I can actually right-click this here, go to my backup folder, and I can actually find backups on any of these machines. If you see this little cloud button here, that means they're not downloaded onto this machine. If I wanted to actually download it, I'd come over here, I'd double-click it, or I'd make available offline by clicking that button right there, like so. Same with my Mac Mini. But really, to some degree, you might want to come through these backup folders, you know, look through them, kind of prune out the things you don't need anymore. I probably need to do that with especially these two guys right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to just call this archived backups. This is if I was transitioning to new devices, right? I don't have those two devices anymore. I'm going to throw them in there. We're going to clean this up by name. And now I have my three main devices I use. I have my Asus ProArt Studio, I have my Mac Studio, and I have my MacBook Pro, those three devices. And so if I switch between them, that's where I'm going to be looking for backups. And in the event that something is not quite right here, oops, I opened them all at once, I can open up any of these on any device. Like I can open this backup folder because it's in Dropbox on my PC. I could open my Mac Studio one, I could open my MacBook Pro one, I could open my Asus one. Doesn't matter which device I'm on, so long as I'm logged into the same Dropbox device or Dropbox account on each device, I can access these backups. And that's kind of how I recommend do that. And all you have to do is for each device, you come up to your backup section here in your settings, and you choose and designate that backup folder. That's what I recommend there. Okay, let's see here. I think that was the main last thing I was going to do. So let us go here and let's finish up our last couple slides. I'm going to look at Scrivener real quick and see how we're doing on our syncing. It just says it has about 7,000 files left. So we'll give that some more time to share here. And let me go ahead and switch over to this desktop here. And let's do our last few slides. We'll open it up for a Q&A. We'll keep an eye on this phone here and see if it can finish syncing before we're done. Hopefully it can. You can see today didn't take nearly as long as the other days. But yeah, we definitely got some good material out here and we got some good information here. So let us go and share our, let me share the right screen. Yeah, okay. Okay. Now, as always, we have some great free resources available for you guys. If you haven't already gotten a copy of my free starter tutorial template, check that out. I'll give you the link to that in just a minute. We have our webinar library as well, and user forums, user manuals, blog and video tutorials available at leadershiplocked.com and ojevans.com/tools if you're interested in that kind of thing, and a full knowledge base for all things related to Scrivener to help you really get to the nitty-gritty and figure out what's going on there. Okay. Now, this is the question I'm always concerned about. I'm like, did I deliver? Do you guys feel more confident in cloud syncing? I know that was a lot of information we just kind of like just sprung on you, and I don't expect everyone to get it all at once, but do you see the path? Do you see a way to make things working for you to avoid such problems, sync problems in the future? Let me see if I can find the chat here. Okay. Because it's over here. Let me try that again, guys. Open that up. There we go. Let me see if I can pull up the chat now. I can see what you guys got. Is he still blocking phone? Fix. So Gabor is asking about iCloud. That's a good question. Yeah, iCloud. I do not recommend iCloud, Gabor or Jonathan. Google Drive is a mess. I agree. Yeah, Michelle, you've only never had an issue with Google Drive, but you only use one device. So, yeah, that might be fine. You know, here's another thing, guys, is that these guys, you know, Apple, Google, Microsoft, they're constantly changing things, and so, you know, and that could be good or bad, right? They could change, they could fix something, and so things might be working better with Scrivener projects for a while, and they could change something again, and then things stop working as well, and so. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's why I recommend Dropbox, because things are pretty stable at Dropbox in terms of how they work with Scrivener projects, and we keep an eye on that because we do use that with the iOS app as well. And so if things aren't working, we're gonna be working on a solution for you. Yeah. So let's see. Frank says, "Where can I get a laptop like the one in the illustration?" The illustration. Oh, that yeah. I don't know about that. Yes, the double keyboard. Yeah, that was a mistake. It was definitely an AI image, guys. Yeah, that was definitely an image. Yeah, there was definitely some problems with that image. I couldn't fix it in time, so. Yeah, no such device as that, unfortunately. Maybe actually, no, it's not entirely true. I've seen some pretty weird laptops out there, guys. There's some pretty weird stuff. Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Yep, I agree. I mean, Google Drive. I mean, I want to like Google Drive. I want to like it. Even iCloud. You know, ideally that would be our ideal service. We'd love to offer it for iCloud, and you know that may be something. Maybe Scrivener 4, Scrivener 5. I don't know, down the road where we might be able to make something like that happen. I don't know for sure. But as it stands now for Scrivener 3, we're sticking with Dropbox, and that's where we're at. And so you know. That's why we're having these kind of presentations. You know, in the future, things may change. You know, and so keep an eye on that as we have updates and things coming along. I'll let you know what happens. Okay, Jonathan says Android phone. Sorry, I'll be quiet. Jonathan, we are. I can't say for sure exactly when or how or why or what or you know, etc. Android is on our radar, and I know it has, and I know I've been saying that for years now. It is on our radar. It is something we've been thinking about, you know, considering developing for. The problem that you'll find with Android is that because of the amount of devices that are out there and the amount of different forms of those devices and the orientations and it's challenging. It's challenging to offer a seamless setup, you know, like we can on iPhone, iPad, because iPhone, iPad, even, you know, of course we have like these kind of older versions of iPhone, right? But they're relatively, it's pretty easy to put them seamlessly on each device with minimal interface problems. It's a little bit more challenging on Android because of the sheer amount of devices and the types that there are. And so, you know, Windows has a similar problem, you know, not as bad as Android, but you know, they're, you know, because there are different devices, things don't always work exactly as they should, you know. So, you know, that's something we'll be looking at. Hopefully within the next couple year or two, we'll have an update for you, and I'll have some good news for you. I hope. We'll see. Okay, Ben says Dropbox and iPhone says script files can't be previewed. Okay, so Ben, if you're having a problem like that, well, this is what I recommend you do. I recommend you actually send us a screenshot to our technical support team, and we take a look at that and see if we can figure out what's going on. Real quick, it looks like we're jumping into the questions. Before I do that, we do have, this is our last session for this year. I mean, for this, not year, this month. Okay, we have May Scrivener Week. Scrivener Week webinar week coming up next month. Sorry, not next week. Oh, speaking over myself. So that'll ideally, this may change, but I'm currently planning on Monday, May 20th, 2024, and I'll start posting those events officially on my website here soon. So watch out for that. So that's coming. Got some good stuff coming your way, and we're gonna jump right into our Q&A here too, so I can answer all those outstanding questions. Inevitably, there's tons of questions on this webinar, so that's good. If you have any technical questions, some of these with cloud syncing, it does get a bit technical, and I can't answer them without actually seeing exactly what the problem is, and that's where I'm going to recommend you reach out to our Scrivener-Mac, Scrivener-Win, Scrivener-Mobile, or scalpel@literaturelawtech.com to address those specific issues. So choose the platform that you're using, whether you're on a mobile device or a PC or a Mac. Send an email to us, and our technical support team will handle and help you resolve those technical related issues. We're happy to help out with that. I know this one can be tricky. And to be fair, I've run into an issue with the Cloud Sync too, where I, as a technical support specialist myself, couldn't figure it out, and I had to kind of talk to my other colleagues, and we had to work together to resolve the issue. It happens sometimes, okay? And sometimes also it just takes a little bit of patience. You just set it aside and say, okay, for now, I'm putting this away, and I will work on it when I'm not so, like, going a little crazy on myself. Yeah, sometimes I just have to calm down, and once I calm down, sometimes it just resolves itself. It's kind of weird. Anyway, okay, well, there we go. Let me close that out. Let me pull up my chat here, and let's see what we can figure out here. I'm going to share the right screen real quick to make sure that we can see things. Okay, let's close that out, and I'll move things out of the way here too, so when I share my screen again for the iPhone, hopefully those won't be blocking your view. Let's see. So Lee asks, how do you check for a sync conflict? Okay, so Scrivener will do those automatically for you. It'll, like, if there is a sync conflict in your project, it'll let you know. It's been a while since I've had one. So let me see if I can find a project that has some of those in here. But what it'll do, Scrivener will warn you, say, hey, sync conflicts were detected, you know, and they've been placed in recovered files. There they are in the bottom of your screen. You can see here, these are kind of older ones, but even from this year, it looks like. Why is that like so? Normally, they don't come through like this as like a doc file, but they're usually like an actual file. Oh, thank you. Oh, why did that not share? I could see it. It switched over, but it didn't actually complete. Can you see that now? Still can't see it. Let's see. Come on. How about now? Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Sometimes I tell Zoom to do something and it's like, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, let's do this again. So we'll open this up. We go to, I'm going to open up the Otter and the Amulet. You scroll down to the bottom, you'll have recovered files here. Okay. These ones in this case were nothing to write home about. They're just randomly weird synced files. And so in my case, there's nothing here that I need to resolve. I can actually just go ahead and delete these guys. Now I can throw in my scraps folder. I do have like a special recovered file section in case I don't want to permanently delete them, right? You can see there have been situations where I've run into this issue. January of last year, July, August. So conflicts do happen. Okay, it's a thing that happens from time to time. But in most cases, I look at it, I compare it with the original, and I'm like, okay, there's no significant change here that needs to be adjusted. And so if I'm certain there's no changes, I can go ahead and just get rid of those things. In this case, there was nothing. It was just an extra file I had probably created, and I didn't actually need it, so I could just delete those. And so, yeah, it does happen sometimes, but like I said, if you follow those rules, those guidelines they gave you, that should prevent most of these. See this one? Oh, there's a lot. Let's see here. I think this one I just threw some stuff in here, but yeah, it does happen sometimes using conflicts. But like I said, rarely have I actually come in here and be like, oh, I need to make a change here. And usually it's like a space here, a word deleted there, very, very minor stuff. Okay. But that's where they'll show up at the very bottom of your project. And usually I keep them in my scraps folder. I don't get rid of them. If you're smart, if you're wise, I guess you could say you could just delete those, but like I don't. I keep them here just on the off chance I do actually need them. Okay. That maybe something was missing, and then I could actually come here. And if you keep it fairly well organized, you can easily find what it was when it was and get that added back in there for you. There we go. Okay. Karen says, I'm always afraid to delete because I worry I'm missing something in the conflict. And that's understandable. And that's why I keep them in my trash folder where they're out of the way, just in case. But 9 times out of 10, that you don't have anything to worry about. But it's not a bad idea to keep those, Karen. I get that. Karen, should I have a black screen? Yes. I wonder if that was related to me. Let's see here. Oh, yep. Thank you, Ruth, for answering those questions. This is great. That's good. Oh, perfect. So Chris is asking, forget this dumb question, but is iCloud storage only for images? No, it's not only for images. So for example, you can store other things in iCloud. Just at this time, I don't recommend iCloud storage for what do you call it? For Scrivener projects. See, in this case, we actually keep, because we can, scalpel boards work well in iCloud. So we do actually keep our scalpel boards in iCloud. So that's one thing you could keep there. I guess that is kind of a type of image too, but really, yeah, you can have all sorts of different things in here as well. But typically, yeah, you'll find most people who are using iCloud, they're using it for photo storage on their iPhones, right? That's honestly, that's why I have it. Actually, I have way too many photos like everybody else, right? And it's just, yeah, it's just having there is kind of frustrating. Let's see here. Thank you, man. Ruth is a rock star. She's handling these issues so great. So thank you. Let me see if I can scroll down here if there's anything else. Yep. That's truly, yeah, you can get, that's the one nice thing about Google Drive is it's relatively cheap, right? I know Dropbox can get a little pricey. I pay for it every year, and then I was like, that's a lot of money for just 2 terabytes of space I'm paying for. But I use it for everything now. I just kind of made it my go-to resource. And, a reminder here, it's frustrating, but none of these cloud sync services are 100% perfect, right? They all have their problems. They all have their ups, their downs, their pros, their cons. And personally, I just made the final decision. Yes, I think in some ways Dropbox isn't the best for everything, but it's good enough for most things that I found it to be usable for me. You know, and so yeah, that's just kind of how I see it. Yes, Matthew, that is part of the problem. So he asked, is there a problem with other cloud sync storage solutions because the .script files are basically and actually folders and not self-contained files? Yeah. So if you're on a Mac, you know, you look at a Scrivener project here, right? And what does it look like? It looks like a single file. But if you right-click that, you click Show Package Contents. It's a special type of thing called a package. And Windows users know this better than most because this is how all of their Scrivener projects looks. It looks like a folder. You open it up and then you actually double-click the .scripts file to open up your project on a PC, right? But you also see that we have all these things in here. It's really just folders upon folders upon folders upon folders, right? All our files and everything here, okay? So that, you know, that is, yeah, that's a big reason why a lot of the other cloud sync services don't work. They're not made to sync the Scrivener project like in the correct way, and so oftentimes things get mismatched, put in the wrong place, deleted, you know, and then file corruptions occur. Whereas if I actually have a, what do you call it? The backup here, right? These backed up files. Open backup folder. These are all zipped up, right? So if I can't show the package contents because they're compressed. It's almost like putting it in a suitcase, right? You can't open it anymore. It's like putting it in a locked suitcase. You can't open it anymore until you unlock it, you uncompress it, right? And then all those files are free to change. So that's why I say you can most definitely back up these files to a different cloud sync service. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you may want to, right? You don't have. You could actually set. I have mine set up in Dropbox, right? But you can easily create the same backup folder for your each device and stick it in Google Drive or iCloud or the others. I just happen to keep mine in Dropbox because that's where I have the most storage space. At some point, I actually do have the OneDrive down here too that I don't hardly use at all. That might be a good use for me to say, hey, let me start putting my backups into OneDrive too. So Kayla's asking, aren't backup files already zipped? Can we save those on Google One for backup? Yes, you can. Like I just said, you certainly can save those in Google Drive. However, they're not always backed up, zipped by default, okay? Sometimes this setting, compress automatic backups as zip files, is turned off. Primarily probably because one of you came to it and said, oh, this is slower. I want my backups to be faster, right? Because that can happen. Like I have a project that takes it's huge, okay? It's about 6 gigabytes worth of data. And even when you compress that and copy and compress that, that takes a good 5 minutes sometimes for it to finish backing up. Now, if your projects are relatively small, not a big deal, but that can be kind of frustrating, you know, just stuck backing up for about 5 minutes, you know, it happens. And then it has to upload that to Dropbox, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, I took that one out of my Dropbox, my regular rotation on my iPhone because it was just too big. It was too big. I actually just use it only on desktop computers. But, you know, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, but yeah, some people turn that off. So if that's turned off, that's where I say, hey, be careful if you're backing up to Google Drive or something else, because it does need to be zipped or compressed. Okay, so make sure that if you are backing up automatically to those platforms, make sure you have this feature turned on, compress automatic backups as zip files. Okay. Let's see. So Anne-Marie is asking, does Scrivener sync as you work like it does the backup, or do you need to use the drop-down menu before you finish? Okay, so Scrivener does sync as you work on desktop. Okay, that's one distinction I should make. If I'm using Dropbox here, you can see anytime I make a change, it's updating automatically. See, anything that changes happens. If I come in here and I edit something, let's say I just come in here and I add in a couple lines. Okay, like this. Scrivener, I mean, it is going to do it. Yep, there it goes. There it goes. Yep, see, there it goes. I just sync that right there. It just happened right now in real time. That does happen. That's why typically it's usually okay. You come in here, you check it, and it's like, oh, yep, everything's already synced up and ready to go. Sometimes not, okay? So, but it's worth coming here just before you move on to another computer just to make sure that your files are in fact up to date, right? But on iOS, that is not the case. It does not sync up automatically until you close the project. In fact, let's minimize this real quick. We're gonna minimize all these things. I'm gonna check and make sure we can see the screen share. Yep. Okay, looks good. Going to. Okay, here we go. It did finish up finally. Okay. And it's asking me this problem. Sync Dropbox changes. Changes have been made to projects stored in Dropbox. Would you like to sync the changes now? I'm going to click sync now. Okay, it's going to sync that up. Any changes have been made. Hopefully it shouldn't be too many. Yep, just a few files and there it goes very fast. And the developer is constantly trying to make this faster, quicker, and easier for you guys. You can see all my projects are here now that are in my Dropbox folder. If I scroll down here, looks good. Woohoo, yeah. But none of them are stored on my iPhone. That's another thing when you're creating a project on your phone here. It's going to ask you where you want it. Create. It's going to ask me, do I want it on my phone? Do I want it on Dropbox? Typically, you're going to want to select Dropbox. I'm going to go ahead and click on my phone real quick, and it'll take it over there. Now, if I wanted to move this over to Dropbox, really easy to do. I just click that edit at the top right corner, click these three little arrows right here, and I move it up here. Okay, there it's moved. Now you may notice here when I'm done, if I make a change, let me see if I can find a platform. There it is right there. Sync changes on open and close. So what it's asking me is, would I like Scrivener to check and sync Dropbox closes using Wi-Fi on open and close? And I do actually, yes, want to do that. So every time I open my project, it'll check and make sure it's up to date. Every time I close my project, it'll sync the changes. I'll click yes. Okay. Now if I make a change here, add something here, done. Now, unlike a desktop computer, as I'm adding this in, it is not uploading directly to Dropbox. I actually have to close out the project, and then it'll sync automatically for me, assuming I turn that setting on. If I didn't, you can see I would have had to push that sync button to the top left corner and do it. And there, go ahead. It's gone ahead and done it. Sync that up. It's finishing up. There we go. And now you can see that little arrow is gone. Yeah. And if you ever tell Scrivener not to sync later, it's going to show you the projects that need to be updated. Either need to be downloaded. It'll have like a little download icon next to it, or an upload if it needs to be uploaded. Okay. Like that. And so this is why it's really important that when you're on here, like for example, I have the Otter and the Amulet open. So I would not want to come to this project and open it up right now because it's open currently on my Mac Studio. And if I did that, I could potentially get some conflicts. So we're going to go ahead and close that out. We're going to go ahead and turn this off for a second. Stop mirroring like so. And let's open up. Let's do something like that. So we'll come here. I'm just going to add a couple new lines here. We're going to save it or back it up real quick. Backing up. Boom. There we go. Okay, close that out. Now we've closed it. Now what do I do next? I check and make sure it's up to date. Okay, so here we go. Right. Okay, that's still syncing, so it needs a minute. So I'm going to close out Scrivener real quick. Pull up Dropbox, still syncing. Okay, files are up to date. So now I should be good to go ahead and open it on another device. Now, if I were going to my MacBook, what I would do is I'd check on my MacBook and make sure that Dropbox is in fact sync with the MacBook. The nice thing about the phone here is that I come here, right? And it has to sync first before I open it technically. Okay, it doesn't have to, but it should. Okay, see, there we go. Sync Dropbox changes. Changes have been made to your Dropbox to your project to Dropbox. Would you like to see those changes now? So we'll go ahead. I'm going to click sync later this time so you can see it. That's what it's going to look like. And you can see the Otter and the Amulet is the one that I edited, and it's the one that needs to be downloaded. So if I open it now without syncing, it could cause some sync conflicts. It could cause me some problems, right? You can also see here up in the top left corner, my sync icon has turned red as well to notify me, hey, you need to sync. Don't open your project yet. Now I can reasonably, let's say there was a big change made to the audio enabler, but I'm not ready to download that change yet. I actually want to edit a different project. That's why we have that sync later option. So I could actually still come in here. I could click the Magician's Gambit. I could work on this instead, this book project instead of the audio enabler at that given, at that moment, kind of a thing. Okay. So once I'm ready to make that change, if I do click the sync later, I can actually just tap the icon up there. It'll sync it, and we'll be good to go. I think it's just 12 files. Beautiful. Doesn't take long. Boom, really fast. You can see if you've added, even if you just added a couple scenes here and there, it shouldn't take too long. It's initially that first setup when you're downloading all your projects. That's the one that takes the most time typically, unless it's been a long time since you've used your iPhone or iPad, and there are a lot of changes to be made. Okay, let's look back at our chat here. I know I've got like 33 messages piling up. Okay. So Scalpel can be saved on the cloud services. Is it like yeah. Scalpel files are more of a single file. So yeah, they don't have any problem in iCloud and the others. Yeah. Thank you, Matthew. That's a good point. Let's see here. So, Laurel, that's a great question. It sounds like there really isn't a way to have co-writers work simultaneously on a doc as with Google Docs. That's correct. You cannot work simultaneously on a project. It's going to be more like a relay race kind of a thing, where maybe you both have a shared folder in Dropbox, where you both have access to it, and you're going to have to say, hey, during this from like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. or 10 a.m., I'm working on the project, right? And you make sure that person makes sure it's closed. You might even want to have a little thing where you send a short message, hey, if you close the project, I'm about to open it up and work on it, right? And so it will require a little bit more communication, and because only one person can work on the project at the same time. Another alternative to that, Laurel, is that you could actually just say have two different versions of the project. You can have your version, and they could have their version, and you can just kind of send files back and forth between each other, right? And or you could even just send the whole project and say, hey, here's the project. It has the date included that you last worked on it. And then that person works on it. And then when they're done with it, they add a new date. They send it back to you. And it becomes kind of like this relay race where you just send the project back and forth to each other. I've done that. I found that works particularly well. It also creates a version history as well. It's almost like a great way of keeping a backup of your project as it evolves too, as you switch it back and forth between each other. And I found that to be very effective, probably even more effective than having just a single project to work from and then having to communicate that. I like just saying, hey, I'm passing the project over to you. You take the baton, you hold on to it, you work on it, and then when you're done, you send it back to me. And since I have my own personal projects and the collaborative project, that's really handy because while they have the collaborative project and they're working on it, then that takes responsibility off me, right? I'm now focusing on my personal projects until they're ready to send it back to me. And then I'll switch gears, jump off my personal projects, jump onto the collaborative project, and we'll work together on that. Oh, thank you, Ruth, for dropping in that the zipped option for creating backups on your iPhone and iPad. Karen, that's great. So Karen said, when I travel outside the U.S., I only take my iPad and they make sure it's synced and ready, and then use it in airplane mode and sync when I get home. This system works great for me to avoid any internet or Wi-Fi issues, and I like that. That's one of the beautiful things about Scrivener, is that it works offline, right? You could literally do just that. Just make sure everything's synced up and ready to go before you go on any of your mobile devices, right? Be it a MacBook Pro or anything else, right? And then just when you could just work offline, just work purely offline until you're ready to dive right until you get back home to your home base, right? And then when you get home, before you open up any other device or any other thing, you just make sure that device gets synced up and ready to go. Okay, boom, boom. Okay, yep. See, Laurel, Ruth recommended the baton issue, the baton method. I like that one. Perfect. Okay, well, we're looking good. We're an hour and 15 minutes past. Let me see if there are anything in the Q&A. This has been great. You guys have asked some really good questions. I know there's typically a lot of issues that go on here. Let's see here. Okay, that was not a question. Okay, perfect. So let's do this. I think if anyone has any last minute question, now is the time. Okay, ask it. Put it in the Q&A. Put it in the chat. I'll be happy to address it. If not, let me just go ahead and check here real quick. I'll give you guys 1 minute. I'm going to give you 1 minute for any last minute questions. If you have any last minute questions, drop it in the chat right now. So I'm watching. I'm going to keep an eye on my watch here. If there are no last minute questions, that's perfectly fine. We can wrap it up here. Exit checked. Close things out here. Looking good. Oh, you know what? Before I forget, while you guys are thinking of anything, if you have anything left, if you don't, that's fine. I'm going to drop in my link here for you so you can access my links and stuff like that. If you want to get access to the free starter Naruto template. I did get some great questions to my email yesterday. I haven't got back to emails yet, but I'll work on that next week. So bear with me as I get back to emails. So if you have anything else you'd like to see, any questions related to the webinars, and any feedback, any topics and things you'd like to hear about, let me know. Send me an email. I'm trying to tailor these things to you guys so you get the information you need. Okay, well, John Gabor, thank you so much. Glad you guys enjoyed the presentation. It is 1 minute after, so I'm going to call it for a day. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I look forward to seeing you all next month. I've got some exciting stuff planned, so stay tuned. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Justin. This has been phenomenal. You're all amazing people and amazing writers. I can't wait to see what you do. And good luck out there with your cloud syncing. I know it's challenging. And as a reminder, if you're having problems still, reach out to our technical support team and we'll get you taken care of. Okay? See you all next month.